Kohl Rosario is a Jayhawk. He's reclassifying. Kansas got him. We haven't done a commitment video for KU Hoops in over 2 months. I don't even know what I'm doing. We're going to discuss his game, break him down, what he brings to the table, where he's going to fit in with KU, all that and more, both now and for the future, coming up in just a second on Locked On Jayhawk.
You are Locked On Jayhawks, your daily podcast on the Kansas Jayhawks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on? Derek Johnson here. This is Locked On Jayhawks. Thanks for making it your first listen every day. Thank you to everydayers catching each and every episode of the show. Thank you for tuning in. We're looking for moments like this, moments where a player commits to KU. It's been so long. They finally got another commit. Kohl Rosario is a Jayhawk. He's reclassifying. We're going to be breaking it down on today's episode. And again, thank you to everydayers catching each and every show, anywhere you get your podcast or on our YouTube page. And if you already caught our Kohl Rosario deep dive, if you haven't already caught that one, go back and watch it because we brought up even more stuff. We're going to bring up even more today on Kohl Rosario. So there will be plenty of new information here, but good groundwork and some good base info on Kohl Rosario there that you can find right here with Locked On Jayhawks. So we'll get into how he fits in with the team, what he brings to the table, potential role both now and in the future for Kohl Rosario on today's episode, which is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50%. That's half off your first year with Monarch Money. Okay, Kohl Rosario, he is a 4-star guard in the class of 2026, or at least he was in the class of 2026, because as part of this commitment to KU, he is reclassifying into the class of 2025. He recently just visited Lawrence. He had a long list of schools he was going to be visiting. Visited a couple of them. I think Oregon was one that he did a couple weeks before. Visited KU, and then all of a sudden, a bunch of the other visits were off. And what is the reason for that? Well, turns out it's because Kohl Rosario must have loved the KU visit enough, and they did a good job closing him. And in an offseason where we had questions and we've been wondering, okay, what's going on? Why are they missing out here? Why are they not closing on this or that? They closed. And do credit for that one with being able to finish this one off. So that means he will join the roster for this upcoming season. Now, the thing that I'm not totally clear on is, can he just join right now? Or does he have to wait till the start because summer school has already started? Does he have to wait until, August begins for the start of the official school year to enroll? I don't know how that works, to be completely honest with you. But obviously he had a lot of schools that were interested in him. He was kind of a late riser here. It sounds like Duke was going to try to take him in the class of 2026, not 2025. Obviously Oregon had the visit. He had a bunch of those other good schools that, were having him visit. So he was, when you're a top 50 recruit in the country, I don't need to really get to the offer list and be like, oh, well, he had these offers and yada, yada, yada. I should also mention, sometimes when you have a player reclassify up, the initial thought is, oh, are they going to be ready? Are they only 17 years old? How much are they? This is his natural age. He was a junior year in high school, was his 23 to 24 season, which means this past year, the 24-25 season, he was basically a senior in high school when he played for OTE. So this is his natural progression to come into college now. He's originally from Florida, though. He then played at Moravian Prep for a couple of seasons there. And then most recently, like I said, this past season, he played at Overtime Elite. I guess KU is just getting an Overtime Elite pipeline, right? Samiz Calderon, Kohl Rosario, and Bryson Tiller now all fit into the bucket of KU players that they've been able to bring over from Overtime Elite. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I don't know. There's clearly a lot of talent there, but also it's not like it's unorganized makes it sound like the league is unorganized. I don't want to make it sound like that, but it's sometimes the level of basketball is unorganized in terms of the highlights, because you watch these plays where they have these there's some sort of foul rule where basically it allows you to get a 5-on-4 fast break. So it ends up being a weird level of basketball, to say the least. But this guy's been on winning teams with Overtime Elite, to where everywhere he's gone, he has won games. And that's something you really like to see, especially when maybe you are questioning, okay, what is the level of competition there? Anyway, 24/7 rated him a 93 graded 4-star. And that was their latest update, which was just a week ago, something like that. In the class of 2026, he was boosted up to the number 5 shooting guard. Before that boost, he was right around the top 100 on 24/7 Sports. So again, kind of a late riser with where he comes up. And that pushed him also to number 55 in the 24/7 Sports Composite. Now, I'd imagine if other sites updated their rankings as well, he probably ends up maybe even a little bit higher, maybe a smidge higher on that as well. But if we just take his composite score from the class of 2026 and move it into the class of 2025, again, he was the 55th rated player by that in 2026, it would rank him as the tied 58th player in the class of 2025, excuse me. So this class that he's moving into, which makes sense because kind of the thought process has been the class of 2025 is better from a high school rank, at least certainly at the top, than the class of 2026. So basically a top 60 recruit, even with the reclass. Unclear, like I said, when he'll be able to join the team. Certainly would be nice if he is able to join now. I think there's a lot of comparisons, though. Let's say he can't join till August, to Johnny Furphy when he came to Kansas, right? And obviously Furphy was an international player. Rosario's not. Furphy was more of a 3-4 wing. Rosario probably more of a 2-3 type of guard / wing. The games are a little bit different, though there are some similarities, right? You're talking about good athletes kind of on the wing who profile as being, good shooters and transition players and dunkers, right? Like that is something that they definitely do share. And both of them have like good rebounding numbers from their previous stops. So there certainly are like some comparisons that you can kind of make between the two. But going back to Furphy, like if you remembered, it wasn't just that Furphy missed summer basketball, which is potentially what is going to happen here with Kohl Rosario before he joins KU. It's that Furphy also missed their trip down to, when I always forget if it was Dominican Republic or Puerto Rico, because I know they went to one and then they played the other, wherever they were. But regardless, he missed that trip, but he was still able to come on and was still a rotation player by the start of the season. Now that is a little different because that team was certainly a more thin roster, right, than this one probably will be when it's all said and done. Like I still think they're going to, add another player or two. So it's a little bit different there to getting in the rotation in night one, but like the downside there is clearly Furphy was one of the most talented players on that team. He ended up being, a top 40 pick in the NBA draft, but he wasn't a starter till January. And it took like injuries for him to get into the starting lineup. Now, could that just be because he was a freshman? Could that be because you had like guys like Kevin McCullough who were in front of him? Yeah. Like those things kind of line up in a lot of ways. But I guess point being like, it wouldn't shock me if, Cole Rosario isn't playing a huge role right away just because he has to get, in tune with everything. And then all of a sudden, maybe you do get to January and he's playing a bigger role and he's in the rotation a little bit more. Then again, if you're not getting that opportunity early on as a young freshman, will you get that opportunity later? So I do think my expectation is he can be a role player, that he can be a rotation player on this year's team, but it's going to take the 3-point shot falling and some things that we'll talk about here in a second. But I do think, like I said, there are some comparisons in that area. But more than anything here, and I guess too, now that I think about it, like what did Johnny Furphy finish in the rankings? Because I want to say Furphy was kind of a similar, like he was a late riser. I know that. Like he was somebody who kind of took off, whereas like, we think he's going to be in the class the year following. And then he ends up like reclassifying up and he has like a really good, like it was like his summer or something. He ended up on 24/7 Sports, the number 35 player in that class. And he was number 69 on the 24/7 Sports Composite. So honestly, there's some comparisons too with the ranking. But anyway, I think more than anything, like at this point, like Kansas needed a win. You know what I mean? Like they needed to see the ball go through the hoop. They needed in baseball terms, a swinging bunt. And then all of a sudden you get your confidence up. And then all of a sudden the next one's a rope to double off the wall. And then boom, all of a sudden you hit a home run. Like they needed to get in the positive news cycle again. And whether that's just a fan thing or I don't know, just building recruiting momentum and positive momentum as a team, like getting the fan base reinvigorated again about like where things are going in the off season. In a lot of ways, fans are going to get excited no matter who you add, right? You could add Mr. Potato Head and we're going to talk ourselves into like why it'll work. You know what I mean? So it's just a good thing to get into. And to be clear, Cole Rosario, much better than Mr. Potato Head. I am taking Cole Rosario in that one-on-one matchup every single day of the week. But point being, like, you now have 12 scholarship players. You still have 2 spots to go. But I don't know why, like 2 spots left with 12 scholarship players, that sounds much more complete and like much more doable of a process than it did when it was like, oh, 3 scholarships left, only 11 scholarship players. And this is a good ad too. This is a good ad for now. This is a good ad for the future. So let's break down Cole Rosario's game, get to a scouting report, potential fit with KU, potential role, both now and in the future in a moment on Locked On Jayhawks. We're brought to you by Rugiet. You've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to be Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow, similar to when you heard that Kohl Rosario was going to be a Jayhawk. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. You can even read real customer reviews on their website. It's helping a lot of people feel more confident and present in the moment. Head to rugiet.com/lockedoncollege and use code lockedoncollege to get 15% off today. That's rugiet.com, rugiet.com/lockedoncollege. Use promo code lockedoncollege for 15% off your order. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiet website for full safety information. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Locked On Jayhawks, and thank you to you for tuning in to the show anywhere that you get it. Don't forget, you can check out Locked On College Football or Locked On College Basketball for your second listen every day. And you can find that as well, similar places. Okay, so Cole Rosario is now officially a Jayhawk, and it just feels like to where we've gotten here, like people are still going to be holding their breath until like they see Cole Rosario in an actual KU jersey. Based on how all this recruiting this offseason has happened, like in their first exhibition game or playing like at Louisville or something like that. But anyway, you look at Cole Rosario's stats. So like I said, he was at Moravian Prep before he came over to Overtime Elite, and at Moravian Prep he played his sophomore and junior years of I guess high school ball there. Sophomore season of varsity ball, he averages 16.5 points per game in 25 minutes, 5.6 rebounds, 3.4 assists, 1.3 steals. Then his junior year he averages 25.2 points in 25.3 minutes. That's pretty darn good efficiency. 6.1 rebounds per game, 1.7 assists, 1.3 steals, and 1.1 blocks per game. And he does it shooting very well. He shot over the 2 years combined 49% from the floor. He shot 37% from three, and he shot 78% on free throws in those 2 years combined. So obviously very good shooter in those settings. Then he goes to Overtime Elite here. And in the regular season, again, playing for what was one of the best teams, YNG Dreamers, in the Overtime Elite League. And he was able to, get up a lot of threes, I guess would be the way of kind of putting it here. So in the end, he ends up playing 29 minutes per game. He averages 15.7 points per game. He only had one game in single digits in which he had just 2 points, oddly enough. But he overall was a very good rebounder. He averaged 5.6 rebounds per game, including 2.8 offensive rebounds per game. So somebody who, clearly showed athleticism and getting offensive rebounds there. He also averaged 1.8 steals per game and 0.8 blocks per game. Also averaged almost a dunk per game, which again shows kind of the athleticism there. Overall, the assists per game were 2.1, but more of an off guard, which I think he profiles as Kansas, 71% on 2-point shots. Most of his twos end up being dunks or transition plays, but shows you he obviously is a good finisher. And again, the athleticism to be able to get up. Now, the 3-point shooting is only 27%. So that certainly rings out, and it's like, okay, isn't the idea to bring in a good shooter? Only 27%. The interesting part, though, is he shot 8.2 3-point attempts per game, which is a lot. Like there are some guys, like here's a game with 14, here's 12. Like he got a lot of 3-point shots up. And what that tells you is his team viewed him as the best 3-point shooter in the team, and they were going to get him a lot of those looks. In a refined down role, he's not going to be averaging 8 3-point attempts per game at Kansas. and where, you're playing off Darren Peterson, who's going to attract a lot of help from the defense and, yada, 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 you're going to get more open looks and probably shoot a little bit better. But also he shot really well to kind of finish the season and had some peak games. I think streaky 3-point shooting would be the way of describing it, right? Here's a game with 0 for 6. I'm looking at 1 3 of 12, 1 of 9, 0 for 4, 0 for 5. 4 for 14. But then you also see games where he goes 3 for 8 or 4 for 9 or 3 for 6, and then we'll get to the playoff games here in a second. But somebody who, I think is a streaky 3-point shooter, which isn't uncommon for a lot of young players. Then in the playoffs, as I mentioned, plays really well, 26 minutes per game, 13.6 points per game in the playoffs to go with 4.9 rebounds per game. He also averages 1.6 steals, 0.3 blocks per game. Again, shoots very well from two, 72% on twos in the playoffs. And this is where the playoff shooting comes in. He shot 41% from 3 in the playoffs for OTE. Now, again, it's streaky, though. He goes 6 of 9 in their first playoff game. He also went 3 of 4 in their second to last playoff game. He also, though, has between the 6 of 9 and the 3 of 4, collectively, you're looking at 2 of 13 in 4 games between those two where he did really good. And then his final game, he goes 1 of 3. So point being, he's a streaky 3-point shooter is kind of what that tells us. Now, he also played OTE plays this like Adidas Next Gen. And what they do is you have some of the best like clubs from overseas, have some of their young players come over and play against like OTE. And it's a good opportunity for scouts and, agents and yada, yada to kind of get an eye on some of these players. So he played 3 games there, and that's where he really blew up. 15 points per game, 3.3 rebounds, 2.7 steals, 2.3 assists per game. He shot 44% from the floor, 42% from 3, and 69% at the foul line. Obviously, limited sample and all those just being 3 games long. But again, you see kind of the spike shooting, so to speak, right? You're talking about somebody who in those games, he had one game where he had 30 points on 6 of 6 from 3 and 10 of 10 from the floor. But again, if you're talking streak shooting, the other 2 games he played, he went 2 of 13 combined from 3. But because he went 6 for 6 one game, it's an over 40% 3-point percentage. So it's kind of complicated when you talk about his 3-point shooting because it's inconsistent. There are going to be games where he can't miss. There's going to be games where, he just can't knock it down. But in the specific role, okay, you might be asking him to play. That might just be okay. I'll get to that in a second here. I think when you look at the biggest strengths, though, of Kohl Rosario's game, it is the shooting potential, right? Because even among all the streakiness, you're talking over his, if we want to like widen the sample size as big as possible, 2 varsity years at Moravian Prep, plus the year at OTE, regular season and postseason, plus the 3 games at the Adidas Next Gen event. That is a combined 178 of 515 from 3. That's good for 34.6%. So about 35%. And he's doing it on high volume, right? That suggests he should be a good 3-point shooter. But again, I say potential because for a lot of young guys, you'll see inconsistency early on in their career 3-point shooting, something they get better as their career goes on. And so you might have a little more inconsistent version of it this year. But if he stays down the road, by year 3, he might be one of the best shooters in the conference or in the country or something like that, right? And again, the fact that he attempted so many, that's a good sign because it's a good sign that the team viewed him as a big shooter. It's also, if you're taking that many, means you're getting him off in a lot of different areas, both in terms of where you shoot him on the floor, or you shoot him from the corner, above the break, at the top of the arc. It shows that you have a good diversity where you can make threes. It also shows that you can probably make them in different actions. Can you make them off the catch? Can you make them off the dribble? Can you make them, curling off a screen, right? It shows you can make them in a lot of different ways. And it also shows you that if you're taking that many threes, the other team is clearly going to circle that, underline it, on the scouting report. They're like, don't let this guy get open from 3 because he's taking this many threes, right? So it's going to be harder to make those in that setting. And again, in the role that he might play at Kansas, that might not get as emphasized, right? He's also a good athlete. 23 dunks in OTE. You see the block and the steal numbers. You watch some of his highlights where he's able to go up, where he's able to finish through traffic. It's apparent, good athlete. Seems to make a defensive impact. Now, again, I don't know how much that's going to translate year 1 of college basketball. A lot of times we'll see guys who are good athletes, but they struggle in year 1 of college basketball defensively because it's the off-ball stuff. It's the knowing where you need to be. It's being the good team defender. Can he figure that stuff out? But you see some of the steal and block numbers. They do look good and suggest that, when you combine his athleticism and size, he obviously has potential potential to be a good defender. The biggest questions, though, I think coming in, again, it's what is going to be the level of three-point shooting coming in right away? Is he going to come in and shoot 32% where he's going to have a couple games where he goes 3 for 4 or 4 for 4, but has some other games like where he goes 0 for 3 and 0 for 4 and 0 for 3 successively, and then the next game he's 4 for 4? Or are we talking he's going to be a 37% three-point shooter, and some of the three-point shooting he showed at the end of the season is going to become even more consistent with another year of play, and it's just going to be one of the best, if not the best, three-point shooters on the team. Also, the adjustment from playing at OTE, again, some of the weird rules. It's not always the most, conducive basketball to what he's going to play with Bill Self and in college and stuff. And I think just overall, like, is this more of a 3 or 4 year player where you're not going to see the fruits of your labor till year 3? Or is this a player who you could see that impact right away in year 1? Or is it going to take till year 2? Like, those are the big questions for Kansas team that does have spots open, minutes available. And I kind of figure him to play some of those. So we'll get into what his potential role could be for KU next. This is Locked on Jayhawks. This episode of the show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where'd all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. They have all-in-one convenience where instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track your spending, and even plan long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year with Monarch Money. Thanks for joining us on this episode of the show. Again, don't forget you can check out Locked on College Football or Locked on College Basketball for your second listen every day. Okay, so how would Cole Rosario fit in with the team? I think he would continue to add to the trend of positional size, versatility. You know, everybody's like 6'4" and above, essentially. I know Marco's 6'3", but he has a big wingspan. So pretty much everyone has good positional size, right? And some sort of good level of athleticism. Should be a good transition team if you're Kansas. I think he does add shooting to the team, right? Even if it is streaky, having someone with the potential to go off from 3 is still worth something. And it also makes the other team respect him in a real way because they can't let him get hot that specific night. So like he does create a level of spacing and gravity for your team, whether he is on that night or whether he's not. And then also there's the level of it where it's like, let's say he is a really inconsistent shooter. And let's say that is his biggest attribute he's bringing to the game. He would just be in the Diggy Coit, Jalen Coleman-Lands role at that point in time where it's like, okay, if you start 0 for 2, you might only play 8 minutes that game. You might only play 4 minutes that game, right? And if you do start, 3 for 3 or 2 for 3 or whatever, maybe, or maybe it gets even better than that. Maybe playing good defense. Maybe you do play 20, 25 minutes in that specific game. That's what that role kind of entails if you're hitting or not. And so from that standpoint, if he is an inconsistent shooter, it doesn't matter as much because if he's not shooting well, he's just not going to play as much in that specific game. And if he is, he's going to play more. So you're going to get more shots up. So I would think he had shooting. As far as what the floor outcome is, like what's the low level, the low end outcome here for what his role looks like. And again, this is just year 1, right? I'm not talking long-term, just in year 1. I think, maybe the floor situation would be, he comes in, he didn't play summer ball with the guys. He's not, he doesn't have the same chemistry that the other players who were here in summer have playing with each other yet. Maybe he is a little more inconsistent shooting the 3 ball, and it takes him a little bit more time to get adjusted. And because of that, you end up behind Darren Peterson, Melvin Council, Marco Jackson, Jaden Dawson for sure as guards. And then what happens with the competition with a guy like Jamari McDowell for his competition as another guard, possibly, right? Like that becomes the big question. The floor outcome would be you end up behind him because he's more experienced. He's been in the system now. This will be his 3rd year. And you're kind of just a spot minute guy who's on the outside of the rotation. The ceiling outcome, the best case scenario, what I think could happen here is he is one of the, best 3-point shooters on the team coming right off the bat. And because he is still a good athlete, like he does other things besides shoot the 3 ball well, right? He is getting you some steals and at least hustling and playing hard on the defensive end. And we know he can be a good rebounder as well. That there is a little bit of that Johnny Furphy, ish, idea to it where you can really see the potential both for future, and he can help you, right now in a couple different areas. And from that perspective, I think the ceiling would tell you that, yeah, okay, I would view it as like, okay, Peterson, Council, Dawson, White, Badunga, Jackson, backup big. That would be 7 guys. You're the 8th guy for Kansas, which at that point is, it could get 10 to 15 minutes per game, right? And maybe it's even more. Maybe it's 18 minutes per game, right? I think the middle ground role is kind of the Jalen Coleman, Lance Diggy Coit role, where it's like some games you're playing 15 minutes, others you're playing 5, and that might be the most likely in the end here. But I do think there's a role for him, whether it is that Jalen Coleman Lands role or that consistent 8th guy on the team type of role. And that's just the now role. When you're talking the future role, that is honestly where I think it gets even more exciting, because Cole Rosario is the type of player, good athlete, hustles, rebounds, shoots the 3 ball, that develops really well over his time at KU, that starts as a role player and turns out to be an all Big 12 player by, whatever it ends up being, year 2, year 3, year 4 at Kansas. So I really like this get both for now and especially the future if I'm Bill Self and I'm Kansas. And obviously that's why they brought him in. So anyway, that'll do it for this episode of Locked on Jayhawks. You can find our show anywhere you get your podcast, including on our YouTube page, where you can like and subscribe to the show. We'll have plenty more content coming at you about the repercussions of this edition for KU, what it means for the rest of the offseason, what do they still have to do from here, what do they still need to add to the roster. We'll get to all that on upcoming episodes. So make sure you subscribe to the show. Let's get that up to 4,000. And thank you for tuning into the show anywhere you get your podcasts or on our YouTube page. See you next time for another edition of Locked on Jayhawks.